Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
All right, buckle up for a deep dive.
Ooh, this one's a good one.
Oh, it's a doozy.
It really
It's
is.
one of those cases that just grabs you and doesn't let go.
Oh yeah, small town secrets, a murder, and a mystery that goes back centuries.
We're headed to Eastwood.
Picture perfect New England, you know?
Fall foliage, charming streets, the whole 9 yards.
But under the surface, there's this darkness, something sinister that nobody wants to talk about.
And it took a murder to bring it all to light.
The murder of Ethan Walker.
A local historian obsessed with digging into Eastwood's past.
He was found in the bell tower of St. Bartholomew's Church just days before the town's annual harvest festival.
And the way his body was found, it wasn't just a simple crime scene.
No, not at all.
It was like he was posed.
Like he was conducting an invisible choir.
Chilling stuff, right?
The staging, the symbolism, it all pointed to something ritualistic, something connected to the church's own troubled history.
See, Ethan had been researching St. Bartholomew's for years.
Uncovering these unexplained disappearances, strange rituals, all these hints of a darker side to Eastwood's past.
And someone did not want those secrets coming out.
Someone who was willing to kill to keep them buried.
We're going to be looking at police reports, witness testimonies, forensic evidence,
And most importantly, we'll be delving into Ethan's own journal.
filled with cryptic symbols and observations that might hold the key to solving this whole thing.
It's like a puzzle, and we have to piece it all together.
So let's start by setting the scene. It's autumn 2021, the leaves are turning, and Eastwood is gearing up for its annual harvest festival.
You can almost smell the pumpkin spice in the air, right?
Right. But beneath that festive atmosphere, there's this undercurrent of unease.
A sense that something is terribly, terribly wrong.
Eastwood thrives on its history, its traditions, its close-knit community.
But what happens when that history is intertwined with secrets that threaten to unravel everything they hold dear?
Well, in this case, it leads to a murder investigation that exposes the deep-seated fears, rivalries, and hidden truths that have been simmering beneath the surface for decades.
It's like pulling back a curtain and seeing the dark underbelly of a picture-perfect town.
Now let's talk about Ethan Walker. He wasn't just a historian. He was a bit of an eccentric, a recluse who lived and breathed the past.
He was completely consumed by it.
Spent countless hours in the local archives, poring over old documents, interviewing anyone who might have a story to tell about Eastwood's history.
He wasn't just piecing together a historical puzzle. He was stepping on toes, ruffling feathers, making enemies in a town where secrets were meant to stay buried.
Now picture this. 2 kids playing a game of ghost hunting just days before Halloween stumble upon Ethan's body in the bell tower.
It's a chilling discovery, especially for those kids. Can you imagine?
I can't even imagine.
And it's not just the location that's unsettling. It's the way his body was arranged. Arms outstretched, as if conducting an unseen choir. Surrounded by leaves and twigs meticulously placed around him. It's ritualistic, almost theatrical.
And then there's the journal, Ethan's journal.
Filled with these cryptic symbols, unsettling observations about the townsfolk, and clues about a long-forgotten secret society with ties to St. Bartholomew's Church.
It's like something straight out of a Dan Brown novel.
It really is. A secret society, a murder, and a town full of secrets. What more could you ask for?
So we've got a murder, a bizarrely staged body, and a journal filled with cryptic clues.
Classic whodunit setup.
And as with any good mystery, we have our cast of characters.
Each one with their own secrets, motives, and connections to Ethan and the church.
Starting with Ethan's own mother, Margaret Walker.
A woman haunted by grief, but also by fear. She always believed Ethan's research was dangerous.
She warned him to leave the past alone.
But did she know more than she was letting on? Was she trying to protect him from something or someone?
Then there's Sheriff Thomas Reed, a man torn between his duty to uphold the law and his loyalty to his hometown.
Small-town politics can be a tricky thing.
He had a complicated relationship with Ethan, warned him to back off from his research.
But did he go further than that to silence him?
We also have Nancy Bennett, an old friend of Clara Dunn, the investigative journalist who's drawn back to Eastwood by this case.
Now, Nancy is a fellow historian, and let's just say her relationship with Ethan was strained.
Professional rivalry.
Oh, definitely. They clashed over their research, their interpretations of history. Could that have turned deadly?
Then there's Gregory Hawthorne.
The respected town elder, always so concerned about preserving Eastwood's image.
He publicly disagreed with Ethan about revealing the church's past.
Was he trying to protect the town's reputation, or was there something more personal at stake?
And finally, we have Victoria Lane.
A wealthy businesswoman who's poured a fortune into restoring St. Bartholomew's Church.
Saw Ethan's research as a threat to the church's reputation and her legacy.
She's a powerful woman in Eastwood with a lot to lose.
So there you have it. A town steeped in secrets, a murdered historian, and a pool of suspects with tangled motives.
It's a tangled web we're about to unravel.
So we've got our suspects, each one tangled up in this web of secrets and lies. But to really get into the heart of this mystery, we need to dig into the evidence. What can you tell us about the forensic findings?
Well, the initial autopsy report confirmed that Ethan's death was caused by blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with a fall from a significant height. But the details surrounding that fall are where things get interesting.
You mean the fact that he was found on the bell tower, posed like a conductor? That definitely doesn't scream accidental fall.
Yeah, exactly. The staging of the body, coupled with that meticulous arrangement of leaves and twigs, it strongly suggested that someone went to great lengths to manipulate the crime scene.
And remember how those leaves and twigs weren't all native to the area around the bell tower? What did the forensics team make of that?
That's a crucial detail. The analysis of that plant matter, specifically the pollen and soil samples, indicated that some of it came from a very specific area behind the church, near an old well that had been sealed off for decades.
A well. That sounds ominous, like something out of a horror movie.
It certainly adds to the mystery, doesn't it? And it suggests that Ethan was likely at that location before ending up in the bell tower.
So maybe he was attacked near the well and then moved to the bell tower, but why go through all that trouble?
That's the million-dollar question. It points toward a deliberate attempt to mislead the investigation, to create a narrative that would throw off the authorities.
Okay, so we have a potential secondary crime scene and this mysterious well. What else can you tell us about the physical evidence?
The analysis of Ethan's clothing revealed traces of soil consistent with the area near the well, further supporting that theory that he was there before his death. Additionally, there were defensive wounds on his hands and arms, indicating that he had struggled with his attacker.
So this wasn't just a random fall. Ethan was fighting for his life.
Precisely. And the toxicology report ruled out drugs or alcohol, meaning Ethan was fully aware of what was happening during the attack.
This paints a much more violent picture than a simple accident. It seems like someone wanted Ethan dead and went to great lengths to cover their tracks.
It's a puzzle, and the pieces are starting to come together, but to get a clearer picture, we need to examine the interviews with our key suspects.
Yes, let's dive into those transcripts. I'm particularly curious about Margaret Walker, Ethan's mother. She always seems so terrified of what he might uncover.
Margaret's interview is full of contradictions. She oscillates between expressing deep sorrow over Ethan's death and hinting at these dark secrets that he may have unearthed.
She even admits to fearing for his safety, saying that she had warned him about the dangers of his research. Do you think she was genuinely concerned, or is she trying to hide something?
It's hard to say for sure, but her evasiveness when questioned about specific details of Ethan's research raises some serious red flags. She seems to know more than she's letting on, but whether it's out of fear or a desire to protect her family name remains unclear.
What about Sheriff Reed? His interview felt very guarded, almost like he was trying to downplay the severity of the crime.
The sheriff's loyalty to Eastwood is palpable. He repeatedly emphasizes the town's peaceful nature, almost dismissing Ethan's death as an unfortunate accident. However, his insistence on his alibi, despite those gaps in the investigation, casts a shadow of doubt over his sincerity.
And those eyewitness accounts mentioning him warning Ethan to back off from his research, that doesn't help his case.
Indeed. It suggests a conflict of interest, a desire to protect the town's reputation, even if it means overlooking potential leads in a murder investigation.
Nancy Bennett's interview is a whirlwind of emotions. One minute she's denying any involvement, the next she's admitting to arguing with Ethan about his research. What did you make of her conflicting statements?
Nancy's frustration with Ethan is evident in her emails, but her interview reveals a deeper level of animosity. She accuses him of being reckless, obsessed, and ultimately responsible for his own fate.
But she also had a gap in her alibi the night of Ethan's death. She claims she was at the library, but there's no one to corroborate her story.
That missing hour raises serious questions. Was she truly at the library, or did she use that time to confront Ethan, leading to a fatal altercation?
Let's move on to Gregory Hawthorne. the town elder who seemed so concerned about preserving Eastwood's image, his interview was almost too perfect, wouldn't you say?
Gregory's demeanor is calm, collected, almost rehearsed. He maintains his innocence, providing a seemingly airtight alibi and distancing himself from Ethan's controversial research. However, there's a subtle defensiveness in his responses, a veiled protectiveness when discussing the church's history.
He admitted to disagreeing with Ethan about revealing sensitive information about the church's past. Could that disagreement have escalated into something more sinister?
It's certainly a possibility we can't discount. His deep knowledge of the town's history, particularly the church's secrets, makes him a person of interest.
And then there's Victoria Lane, the wealthy benefactor who poured so much money into restoring St. Bartholomew's. Her interview was all about protecting the church's reputation and minimizing Ethan's findings.
Victoria's investment in the church goes beyond mere philanthropy. It's tied to her family's legacy, her social standing in Eastwood. Ethan's research threatened to unravel that carefully constructed image.
Her alibi relies on her employees, who may not be the most impartial witnesses. Could she have orchestrated a cover-up to protect her reputation?
It's a plausible scenario. Her influence and resources could have easily been used to silence Ethan and manipulate the investigation.
Okay, so we've got a lot to unpack here. Suspicious alibis, conflicting statements, and a web of relationships that all lead back to St. Bartholomew's Church. But what really caught my eye was Ethan's journal. Those strange symbols and the cryptic entries about a secret society. What can you tell us about that?
That's where things take a truly fascinating turn. After weeks of analysis, experts were able to decipher some of those symbols. They're linked to a long-forgotten secret society that operated in Eastwood during the 19th century.
A secret society. This sounds like something out of a Dan Brown novel. What did the society believe in, and what does it have to do with Ethan's murder?
That's the question that drives the next stage of the investigation. It turns out that this society, known as the Keepers of the Covenant, was dedicated to preserving the town's traditions and protecting its secrets, whatever the cost.
And you're saying that Ethan stumbled upon a modern-day version of this society,
Yeah.
that they might be responsible for his death.
It's a theory that can't be ignored. Remember, Ethan was obsessed with the church's past, and the Keepers were deeply intertwined with its history. What if his research led him too close to their present-day activities?
Okay, so we have a secret society, a potential secondary crime scene, and a town full of suspects with their own motives. But how do we connect all of these threads?
Well, that's where Clara Dunn, the investigative journalist, takes center stage. Remember, she's not just there to solve Ethan's murder. She's also searching for answers about her childhood friend's disappearance, a case that has haunted her for years.
And she believes those answers lie somewhere in Eastwood's past.
Exactly. And she's determined to uncover the truth, even if it means exposing the town's deepest secrets.
So we've got this intricate web of secrets, lies, and this centuries-old secret society lurking in the shadows of Eastwood.
It's like something out of a thriller novel, isn't it?
Absolutely. But how does Clara, our intrepid investigative journalist, start unraveling it all?
Well, she knows that to expose the truth, she needs to bring it out in the open.
Okay.
She decides to hold a town hall meeting.
A town hall.
Yeah, present her findings to the entire community,
Yeah.
hoping to shake loose some answers, maybe even force a confession.
Wow, that's a bold move. Talk about putting yourself in the hot seat.
Right, imagine the tension in that room, everyone looking at each other, wondering who's hiding what.
I bet. So Claire's laying out the evidence, connecting the dots between Ethan's research, the secret society, and the suspects. What's the reaction from the townspeople?
It's a mixture of shock, disbelief, and anger. You know, some people refuse to believe that such darkness could exist in their beloved town.
Right.
Others are furious, feeling betrayed by those they trusted.
Makes sense.
And then there are those who seem almost resigned, as if they've always known that something was amiss beneath the surface.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, so the tension's building. The truth is simmering just below the surface. Who cracks first under the pressure?
It's Nancy Bennett. Remember, she was already on edge, her alibi was shaky, and her animosity towards Ethan was no secret.
Right.
As Clara starts connecting the dots, highlighting the inconsistencies in Nancy's story and those desperate attempts to dissuade Ethan from his research,
Yeah.
she completely unravels.
That's like a dam breaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
All those bottled up emotions, the guilt, the fear, it all comes pouring out.
Precisely. Nancy breaks down, confessing to confronting Ethan the night he died, admits that they argued, that she pushed him, but she insists that she never intended to kill him.
So she admits to being at the scene, to a physical altercation, but not to murder. Does her story hold up?
It's a partial confession, a plea for understanding rather than a full admission of guilt. And while it provides some answers, it also raises more questions.
Like, why was Ethan's body found in the bell tower? And how did he end up with those defensive wounds if it was just a simple push?
Exactly. Nancy's confession, while dramatic, doesn't fully explain the circumstances of Ethan's death. It feels incomplete, as if she's still holding back crucial pieces of the puzzle.
So she's not telling the whole story.
Right.
And that's where Gregory Hawthorne, the respected town elder, the keeper of Eastwood's history, steps into the spotlight.
His intervention is both unexpected and chilling. Remember, he presented himself as a pillar of the community, a man above suspicion.
Right.
But as the town hall meeting descends into this chaos, he confesses to being present during the confrontation between Nancy and Ethan.
Wait, what? He admits to being at the scene. But why?
He claims he was trying to mediate the argument, to protect both Nancy and Ethan. He paints himself as a peacemaker, a voice of reason in a moment of heightened emotions. However, his account feels calculated, almost rehearsed, as if he's carefully constructing a narrative to deflect blame.
So he admits to being there, but denies any direct involvement in Ethan's death.
Initially, yes. He attempts to distance himself from the violence, placing the responsibility squarely on Nancy's shoulders. But as Clara presses him, revealing details from her own investigation, the facade starts to crumble.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What details does Clara reveal that dismantle Gregory's carefully crafted story?
Remember those soil and pollen samples found on Ethan's clothing?
The ones that linked into the area near the old well.
Exactly. Clara reveals that this location wasn't just any random spot. It was a known gathering place for the keepers of the covenant.
The secret society.
The very one.
So Gregory, the town historian, the supposed guardian of Eastwood's past, was intimately familiar with a site connected to this secretive group. It's not a good look for him.
It completely undermines his claims of innocence. Faced with this revelation, Gregory's carefully constructed facade crumbles. He breaks down, confessing that he intervened in the argument, that he struggled with Ethan, and that in the heat of the moment he accidentally caused his fall.
Wow, this is a major turning point. The respected town elder, the man who seems so invested in preserving the past, is now revealed as a participant in a cover-up, a protector of secrets that turn deadly.
It's a classic case of the past coming back to haunt the present. You see, Gregory, in his misguided attempt to shield Eastwood from the darkness of its history, ends up perpetuating that very darkness.
So Gregory admits to causing Ethan's fall, but does he take full responsibility?
He claims it was an accident, a tragic outcome of a heated argument. But the staging of Ethan's body in the bell tower, the ritualistic placement, the attempt to connect his death to the church's past, that suggests a deliberate attempt to mislead the investigation, to protect something far more sinister than a simple accident.
So what happens next? Do the authorities believe Gregory's confession? What about Nancy?
Well, Gregory's confession, coupled with the forensic evidence and the inconsistencies in his initial statements, leads to his arrest. He's charged with manslaughter, his carefully constructed life unraveling before his eyes.
And Nancy, what's her fate?
Nancy, while initially implicated, is ultimately cleared of any direct involvement in Ethan's death. The evidence suggests that her actions, while reckless, didn't directly contribute to the fatal fall. However, she's left to grapple with the guilt of her role in the events that led to the tragedy.
So justice is served, the truth comes out, but I imagine this leaves a deep scar on Eastwood. How does the town cope with this revelation, this dark secret that's been exposed?
It's a turning point for the town, a moment of reckoning. The idyllic image of Eastwood, the sense of community and shared history, is shattered. Some residents are angry, feeling betrayed by those they trusted. Others are disillusioned, struggling to reconcile the town they thought they knew with the darkness that's been revealed.
And what about Clara Dunn? She came to Eastwood searching for answers about her childhood friend's disappearance, but ended up uncovering a conspiracy that went far deeper than she could have imagined. How does this experience change her?
Clara's investigation brought justice for Ethan, but it also opened up old wounds, exposing the fragility of truth and the long-lasting impact of secrets. She realizes that her work in Eastwood isn't finished. She decides to stay, to delve deeper into the town's past, to uncover the full extent of the keeper's influence, and to search for any connection to her friend's disappearance.
So the case might be closed, but the story continues. Eastwood is left to grapple with its fractured history, and Clara remains, a beacon of truth, determined to shine a light on the secrets that still linger in the shadows.
It's a reminder that the past is never truly buried. It shapes who we are, the choices we make, and the legacies we leave behind. And sometimes it takes a tragedy, a deep dive into the darkness to bring the truth to light.
This deep dive has been a wild ride. A small town with a big secret, a murder that unearthed the conspiracy, and a journalist who wouldn't back down. It's a reminder that truth can be elusive, but it's always worth fighting for.
And for you listening, remember that every town has its secrets. Every family has its skeletons in the closet. What hidden truths lie buried in your own backyard?
Thanks for joining us on this chilling journey into the heart of Eastwood. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the lights on.